Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Wanted to do a quick video, hopefully keep this under 10 minutes long. That'll go up in the morning because I think the terrible podcast. I'm not going to be on it tomorrow morning. It'll be Dave and Dave, and that might be happening a little bit later this afternoon by the time you guys are listening to this video. So I wanted to get something up and, one, to just get some video up in the morning, some Monday morning audio, and two, because I'm not going to be on the podcast. I'm excited to hear what Dave and Dave think about the roster. I haven't gotten really their thoughts too much just yet, talking to them. So I'm excited to hear their thoughts. Definitely check that out. But I wanted to get some of my thoughts up there and just go through a brief rundown of the roster right now. Let me know if you guys like the format. I put up just a little Steelers Depot logo. It's late here. It's about 3:15 a.m. I mean, I'm a little tired. Probably don't want to be on camera looking like a hot mess. And just trying to get a good backdrop. I haven't gotten anything. I know the orange walls you guys have looked at before. Not big fans of those. I agree. I'm not either. But I'm not going to paint, and I haven't gotten any sort of nice backdrop yet. So just the straight audio version today. So real quick, because I know I'm going on too long already, go through the positions. Steelers 53-man rosters initially set. Just kind of an overview, my quick assessment, and we'll go from there. So quarterback position to start, no surprises, of course. Ben, Landry, Josh Dobbs. That's been set in that order, by the way, basically since the moment Josh Dobbs got drafted, and certainly shortly thereafter when Zach Mettenberger, remember him, got released. So that's your group there. No surprises. We've covered Dobbs' ups and downs in his preseason pretty well. Thought he ended the preseason on a good note against Carolina. We broke down the touchdown pass to Justin Hunter. Really impressive play by Josh Dobbs, showing the physical and the mental traits. Running back and fullback, again, Rosie Nixon lock at fullback. Running back was interesting, though. That third spot, who was it going to go to? Obviously, Le'Veon Bell, who is still, as of this recording, by Monday morning, I assume it's going to change. Still does not count against the 53-man roster because he has not signed his franchise tag yet. So you kind of get to work with a bit of a floating roster for the next 12 to 24 hours or so, whatever they do. I guess they practice again today. They come back to practice today, so they'll have to make a move there. We'll go into probably what that move will be here in a little bit. But that third running back spot, I thought it was still going to be Knile Davis because you go with a Colbert history of free agency. That's such a strong indication. Davis, I thought, was well-rounded. Who was going to be your answer as a kick returner? Obviously, Knile Davis got cut. So did Toussaint. Toussaint's on the practice squad. So it's Terrell Watson as of now, and I think that's going to remain the same as your number 3 back. And there's no denying, as a pure runner, Watson's the best guy. Mike Tomlin talked about it often, and it's very easy for any of us to see that defining trait that he has, that downhill, fall forward, run through contact kind of guy, and it's impressive, and definitely what earned his roster spot. Now, I think what also helped, though, was beyond just a runner, because he's a third-string running back for a guy like Le'Veon Bell, who's going to play 90% of the time. There's not much of a chance, barring injury, of course, for him to see the field as a runner. But I think what kind of cemented it for him was showing some of the other traits, looking competent in pass pro, getting better out of the backfield. He's still kind of clunky, but you've seen some progression there, and then a special teams value as well. I think Tomlin's praised Watson's ability on special teams throughout, and I think he made a tackle against the Panthers as well. And of course, if you're going to be that third running back, you better have some coverage ability. That's why Fitz Toussaint's been hanging around, because he played, I think, first or second most special team snaps last year, and was getting some kick return work as well. So that I think showed what Watson did there showed the Steelers enough to feel comfortable with adding him, primarily for the kind of how interesting he is as a runner, but also just what he can do on special teams and how he can help in the short term. So excited for a guy like him, that downhill guy. Having some NFL experience really does help. He's not an undrafted free agent. He's played in Sunday football before. He has a rushing touchdown. So you're going to see him on special teams in that Toussaint role, and probably the up back, the bigger kind of blocker type, ideally, on kick returns. So good for him. It's a great story, talented guy, and again, another name that you can point to in future seasons and say, look at this guy, Terrell Watson. No one thought he had a chance, thought it was other guys competing, and Watson proved himself, and caught the coach's attention and made the team. And really, when that started, catching the coach's eye was probably that goal line practice or goal line scrimmage in the Heinz Field Family Fest practice, where I think he scored on all 3 of his carries, which the first teamers got stuffed on. I think that was the first time people perked up and said, who is this guy? And I bet you the coach just kind of had a little bit of a moment saying, this guy is showing us some serious talent. And it's been all, good things from there. Wide receiver group, super interesting. Who's going to make it, who was not going to make it. Going to be some tough cuts. Obviously, Sammy Coates got dealt to Cleveland. Again, if it was me choosing between Coates and Hunter, I'm taking Coates. Hunter had a nice play against Carolina. That's the last preseason game. I didn't think he showed any semblance of consistency, and I think Coates has been able to produce big plays and do it on a more consistent basis. Last year, the first 5 weeks before his hand was mangled. So I thought what Coates brought on special teams as well was going to be enough, because Hunter doesn't have really any value there. But, the Steelers had the ability to get a pick. A 6-rounder from Cleveland, and they made the move. I don't want to get too much into the trade stuff today. This video is going to be, like I already tell, longer than what it should be. But I thought I would have taken Coates over Hunter on the 53-man roster, even if that meant cutting Hunter and not getting anything back. I would have been okay with that. Now you look at it and you see Steelers get a 2018 6-rounder out of the Coates deal. They send their 2018 6-rounder for J.J. Wilcox. You can kind of see how the draft pick plan and just their overall plan of using these draft picks and how they're going to kind of construct things, and basically you're trading Sammy Coates for J.J. Wilcox, so you kind of get the thought process there. I'm sure that maybe played a role into things, needing to get that pick back so you would feel comfortable about trading a pick somewhere else. But on a talent level, I thought Coates, while obviously he didn't do a lot in camp, I thought his overall body of work was better. He's going to offer more in special teams as a gunner, as a jammer, as a kick returner. Hunter, as far as I'm aware, isn't doing any of those things. We'll see. And then I thought that third preseason game against the Colts, where Coates played, I think it was 48 snaps, and Hunter played 2. I'm like, well, this battle's over. But it's been an interesting discussion. If they couldn't have unloaded Coates, what would have happened there? Because obviously Coates had more value. Teams were interested in Coates. They weren't interested in Hunter. We'll never know, or maybe Tomlin will answer, but I'm not holding my breath for that. Elsewhere, again, DHB, special teams value. I've said it all along. He's not a guy that's going to be attractive as a receiver, and if you look at him as a pure receiver, is he the 6th or 7th best guy? No. But if you look at his work ethic, if you look at his ability to play all 3 positions, not a lot of guys in this team can do it at a high level of comfort. For your last receiver, that's impressive. What he's going to offer on special teams as a gunner, on kick coverage, is really big. He proved that briefly in the preseason, though he doesn't have to really prove that. He's done, his whole time in Pittsburgh and his year in Indy. And Tomlin loves him. So, the guys Tomlin loves, are guys that stick around. He's a mentor. He's a leader in that room. So, you have to give a lot of credit to Darius Hayward-Bay. So that's the roster. DeMarcus Harris, we'll get into Harris maybe with the practice squad stuff. I don't want to touch into that too much right now. Tight end, keeping 4, which I guess I'm a little surprised by, but it's not a high level. I just thought with the comments Tomlin made about the tight end group and how inconsistent they were, to keep Grimble, who was inconsistent in camp, and then you cut someone like David Johnson, who was by far the most consistent guy in camp, mainly because his skill set's kind of limited. He's not the athlete, the playmaker that's going to have these big catches downfield. But that was a mild surprise. Now maybe David Johnson circles back. I mean, it depends on the whole roster construction of this thing. I think Matthew Marksy wrote about it the other day, that he could circle back. And we saw a guy like Steven Johnson, who got cut initially last year. Then Bud Dupree got moved to IR to return, and Steven Johnson circles back and played well until he broke his ankle. So we'll see if another Johnson this year, David Johnson, gets that chance. Not too sure about that, but I thought he had the better camp, and as a blocker, you know what you're going to get from him. But Grimble still has the upside if you want to go 13 personnel, and then you want to spread the defense out from that, which Todd Haley's done in the past, when you go 22 or 13 personnel, and then you go with a spread look to just try to catch the defense off guard, keep them in base, get some height matchups, on the perimeter. Grimble's obviously a much better guy in that regard in terms of an athlete as a threat than David Johnson. So didn't love that move, but we'll see what David Johnson's kind of future holds. Offensive line pretty much set. The one name was going to be Matt Filer, where they can keep a ninth guy, and I think keeping Filer is twofold, maybe even threefold. Looking at the other roster construction, the injuries, they went light on defensive line, they went light on corner, kind of light on corner. Trading Cockrell, and if something's going to go to IR, that's going to lighten it up there. But Filer played well. He's got a good demeanor. He's a physical guy, finishes his blocks, does a nice job pulling and working in the space. He's a good athlete for a guard. He's got a tackle background, played tackle at Bloomsburg, played a little tackle previously in his career with the Steelers. He's switched between guard and tackle, and he was all guard this year, and I think getting settled into that spot helped. Now, there were problems with him, some stunt pickup stuff, but I think all the shuffling that he did, playing with literally first, second, third team at various points throughout camp and preseason games, is tough to do when you talk about stunt pickup and having chemistry and feeling comfortable with a guy next to you when you're constantly rotating, you're playing left guard, right guard. You can see why some of those problems perk up. Now, it's something that has to get fixed, but I'm excited about Filer. I thought he was worthy of making the roster, and that's the other component. Who's just a talented guys that deserve a spot to be a Pittsburgh Steeler? Are you taking the most talented guys, or are you so hyper-focused on number of games that you cut talented guys just to say you have the numbers right? Now, I'm going to be a little hypocritical here in my next point, but the numbers still play a role into that. I thought Tomlin had a good answer when asked about the overall construction of the roster and how much you pay attention to numbers. He said, well, it's not just the 53-man roster, it's the 53 in the practice squad. What do the overall numbers look? And the Steelers were going to keep 10 offensive linemen total, which is what they did, 53 in practice squad. So you can have two lines, especially when guys get days off and stuff like that. You have to have the bodies to fill in. Filer was not practice squad eligible, so if you cut Filer, you had to find two guys in the practice squad. And frankly, if you look at the practice squad list of names, the Ethan Coopers, Jake Rogers, Reuben Carter, those guys of the world, there probably wasn't enough talent to pick out two guys who talent alone are worthy of it. So that's the other component, is if you didn't keep Filer, you got to find two more guys. It probably would have meant searching outside the organization. And ultimately, the team ended up keeping Kyle Friend on the practice squad. So now they have their 10, and they get their ninth on the 53 in Matt Filer. So happy for him. I think it's well-deserved. And, I've been thinking about that one for a while now, so I was happy to see Matt Filer make it. Don't get a lot of these right, especially this edition. These roster moves have been pretty nuts, so I was happy to see what I thought, Matt Filer making us align with reality. I think I went through the whole offense. I'm super tired. Some defensive line now. They keep Dana McCullers, which certainly was a surprise. I had a good feeling Johnny Maxey wasn't going to last. Levon Hooks had been running over him the last 2 weeks in second team right D end, and you saw Maxey kind of fall off. Now, why that happened, I'm not sure. Sometimes guys get soured on and they start to regress, and Tomlin's talked about how you can kind of tell with some of these guys that they're just not able to get through it. They're not as detail oriented. You can tell the process is kind of winning over their mental toughness and their own ability. So we've seen that happen with other guys before. Brian Arnfold, I remember really vividly for some reason. I think the first year was a camp. Wouldn't that be 2014, 2013, whatever year it was? And he was a second team guy. I think it was his second year with the Steelers. His first year kind of impressed a little bit out of Northwestern as kind of a, who is this guy? He's got a little bit of talent. And he was running second team for, I think, the first half of camp. Then one day he just stopped seeing snaps. I mean, he was a little third team, then kind of bumped to fourth team, and he just didn't see the field. And he just, that was it. He was cut, and you never heard from him again. So sometimes you just see it with those guys. Now, I had Levon Hooks my 53, but again, where I think I made the mistake was, is the talent worth it? And Hooks, just on a merit standpoint, probably didn't deserve it. I was looking at it from a pure number standpoint, and that's where I think I got it wrong. So they keep, McCullers instead. I guess if you had to make me choose who's the better player, McCullers or Hooks, I'd say McCullers just because he provides a little bit more splash, but I don't know the rationale, and I thought maybe they make a roster move on Sunday. yesterday by the time you're listening to this, to change that defensive lineman, get an extra defensive end in there, because McCullers is the third team nose tackle behind LT Walton. So unless Walton's got an injury that I'm not aware of, or they're just being, I don't know, maybe extra protective because Hargreaves got the concussion, kind of history going on. But I didn't think McCullers, John Mitchell said it was a make or break year for Daniel McCullers coming into training camp. And I thought I saw the same Daniel McCullers this year that I've seen his first, second, and third year in the league. And so I didn't think he really had a chance. So, I think his roster spot he's on thin ice right now if they got to make a move. He's a logical guy to get rid of. But I'd be really curious to hear the thoughts behind that. We won't get to really hear from a guy like John Mitchell anymore. I don't know how much depth Tomlin's going to go into about that. But the C. McCullers name on there was definitely one of the bigger surprises, I think, of the final list. Outside linebackers, that is pretty set. Keon Adams, IR. He's got shoulder surgery. He's out for the year. And again, he's not eligible for IR to return. To be eligible for IR to return, you have to be on the initial 53-man roster. So if you got cut or placed on IR during this final cutdowns, you cannot come back this year. You are done. So his season's over. So Arthur Moats makes it. The rest of the group is pretty predictable. Inside linebacker, I think it became pretty predictable at the end. LJ Ford had a really strong camp. Tyler Medikevich has been anointed as the backup in both spots. Steven Johnson's up getting the axe. He had, I think, a hamstring injury that sidelined him the last 2 weeks, and I just, didn't think on talent enough he was gonna make it. So that group's in there. What is that? 9 inside linebackers, I think, total, which is maybe a little on the lighter side, but I think they have some versatile guys. They have enough competent and core special teamers that they're going to be fine. Let's see, corners now. Cockrell gets shipped to the Giants. Whenever the Hayden signing happened, I thought immediately it was going to be Cockrell gone. Now, some people thought it'd still might be Mike Hilton. I just thought, Hilton's going to provide a lot more in special teams, and again, merit-based. Hilton's had such a strong camp. It's like, if that guy can't make it, how can anyone ever get a path to make it? How can you ever look at an incoming, class of futures contracts and undrafted free agents if you're Mike Tomlin and say, if you play well, you're going to get a spot? You sound like a hypocrite if you say that. Then you look at a guy like Mike Hilton, who played well, deserved the spot, and doesn't get it for, whatever reason. And so Cockrell just wasn't a fit as a backup. He didn't have the versatility of Cody Sensabaugh. He didn't have the special teams value of a backup cornerback the way that they should, like a Mike Hilton. He's not physical enough. He's not a good enough tackler. He's kind of a starter or bust. And obviously his talent as a starter is limited, so his role is a little funny, especially after you pick up Joe Hayden. And you do save a little bit of cap space as well, I think, after displacement. What is it going to be, $1.25 million? I don't know the exact numbers, but you do save up a little bit of money there when you bring on the obviously big contract of Joe Hayden, and you trade for J.J. Wilcox and stuff like that. So you're just trying to make some numbers work, so that'll help as well. So Cody Sensabaugh makes it, which not a surprise there. 2-year deal. Again, Colbert free agent history. Kind of all the signs pointed to that. And Sensabaugh had a good camp, and I think he's a little more physical than Cockrell's. Run support's a little better, more versatile. Has played in the slot before. Hasn't done it with the team this year, but he could do it in a pinch if you had to. Will Gay staying, that's no surprise. I'm assuming, I think most people are assuming, Cam Sutton's going to go on IR to return. Again, by the time you're listening to this, that move may have already been announced. I assume it's going to happen early Monday morning. They have 54 guys right now. Actually, I think 55, because Wilcox is 55. We haven't heard what the corresponding move is. Now that could be McCullers. I don't know. We'll see. But to get Bell officially back, a move's going to have to be made. So I'm assuming Sutton's going to go to the short-term IR, where he's going to be eligible to return. What is it, week 8? I think. I forget the exact whatever Dupree had last year. Sutton, if you hadn't heard, re-aggravated that hamstring that had plagued him throughout camp. It's unfortunate for him. I was excited to get his play against the Colts and just get him back on the moving train. And now you're worried about that rookie season just kind of being a wash. But can't do anything about that. And then finally, the safety group. Really no surprises there. Except for obviously the trade of J.J. Wilcox, but you get it. The depth was thin. Steelers have been aggressive about upgrading the secondary, And I'll have an article, or it's already up, whatever the case is, on Wilcox and my thoughts on him. Early in the morning on Steelers Depot, and the good, the bad, the ugly. Cause we like to look at it from every angle. But you get the trade, and you didn't give up a lot for him. And like I said earlier, you do the coach deal and get a 6, then you ship a 6 out to Tampa Bay for Wilcox. So you kind of make things a wash in terms of the draft picks. So you're not going to come in the next year super light. I know there's been questions about the comp picks, and there was one guy over the cap. Forgive me, I forget his name, who said with this trade, the Steelers now lose out on the potential / probable 5th round pick of Lawrence Timmons for this upcoming draft, and I don't know if that's true or not. This comp formula is so weird. It's so bizarre and seemingly arbitrary that I can't tell you if that's true or not. I mean, Colbert's gotten stuff wrong on the comp formula before, so if he's getting it wrong, what chances do the rest of us have? But that's the word. Do with that what you will, but something to keep in mind going forward. Into this upcoming off season, the 2018 off season. If that's going to play a role. Practice squad guys. Actually, let me get special list first, because that is a notable thing. Colin Holba cut by Cameron in favor of Cameron Canaday. I said it seemed pretty open, and Mike Tomlin was rarely transparent about that battle, talking with Bob Labriola before the Panthers game, saying, we had a situation a couple years ago with Jordan Berry and Brad Wing, and it came down to that 4th game because it was that close, and obviously Berry won out, and Wing got traded to the Giants. And Tomlin said before the Carolina game that it's the same situation at long snapper between Holba and Kennedy. It was really close, and obviously they went Kennedy. It's disappointing when you take a long snapper in the 6th round. You kind of get made fun of. It made sense after knowing Greg Warren his career was done. But what I liked about the move is you're not using the draft pick as your total guys. You're evaluating it objectively and clearly, and not saying that, well, Kennedy's better, but Holba's a draft pick, so by default, Holba is the guy. That's not going to win you games. You're going to, if that's a mistake, it's a mistake. You quickly move on. And, hey, 6th round picks have at other positions have just missed the roster before. We've seen so many 5th round corners come and go. So I was happy Brian Allen made the team, just for the fact that 5th round corner made the 53. I mean, do a little dance for that. Hopefully he sticks. I'm sure he's cut by now because I said something. But, you can see that it's merit-based. It's not resume. It's not pedigree. The draft pick is a draft pick, but who's going to help you win games? So I'm not the long snapper expert, but Holba did struggle. The Colts game, he had a snap that was high and inside that led to a Chris Boswell missed field goal. I thought Kennedy was relatively steady. So he's the guy. And I assume B.J. Finney's going to be the backup long snapper, the emergency guy, if you were wondering. I saw him do that stuff at camp. So that's that. Practice squad, all 10 guys were with the Steelers in some capacity. Some of them were late add-ons. Justin Thomas, Deshaun Phillips. Those were the 2 big names. Jake McGee made it, which was good for him. A strong camp. Just numbers didn't work out. But you like having McGee. He could be a Kobe Hamilton-ish guy this year. I liked Farrington Huguenin. I think he's lighter. He's listed I'm looking at the roster right now. He's listed at he's 268. He's not 268, but he moves well. I thought he had a nice preseason, got several pressures, I think two or 3 sacks. Levon Hooks, good for him, sticking around, versatile guy. Jacob Hagan, his flaws have been exposed, but he's good at what he is good at, which is, alley fill, run support, a tackler, kind of a potential special teamer if you need it. Matt Colombo's had a nice camp, got a lot of reps. Steven Johnson's injury facilitated that, and Colombo's beats out Keith Kelsey. Kyle Friend, a little bit of a surprise. You could see some moves there. I don't know if his play really warranted it, but again, you wanted to get 10 linemen on there. Phillips, I don't know much about him. Getting in the trade with Crowley, but a nickel guy with NFL experience, you take that. Fitz Toussaint, I said this my 2nd or 3rd roster edition that once the practice squad names got released, that Toussaint is eligible for the practice squad. Is one of the exemptions. You can have, I think, 3 or 4 guys that have normally wouldn't be allowed, but the league keeps expanding the rules, and so Toussaint falls into that category. So that's a great practice squad. Although I do worry about it mid-season, if he lasts that long, teams poaching a guy like Toussaint, because he's got the experience, and while he's not a great player, he's someone that can just come in right away and help you out in a couple different areas. But you can't hate the move at all. Last two, Marcus Tucker, love the story. I think probably that Carolina game got that spot sealed up for sure. Just catching passes from guys that aren't named Bart Houston. Catching passes from Josh Dobbs was huge for him. He's got some versatility. I want to see him get more work in the slot. I saw a little bit of that midway in the end portions of camp. I think he's got the skill set to do it. Kind of that short area quickness and burst because his long speed's not great, but a good story, good guy to root for, so I was happy to see that. And then Justin Thomas from Georgia Tech, who was the last guy signed. I think they just wanted to add some depth to that position, and maybe whatever they saw in practice, they liked. He was a raw guy. I think he played quarterback in Georgia Tech's triple options offense with Paul Johnson. So they wanted DeMarcus Ayers, though. We reported that on Sunday that Ayers was offered a practice squad spot, and our source says that he turned it down. And it's, that's his right, and he has the ability to do that. So I'm not here to say that's good or bad thing. Just saying that that's what happened. He was offered the spot and turned it down, so they signed Justin Thomas to the practice squad instead. Okay, I think we're getting to the end. I said this would be under 10 minutes, and I could not have been more wrong. We're getting closer to a half hour. It's about 3:45 in the morning here. I'm trying to think of my final thoughts. It's always going to be stuff you agree with and disagree with. The end of Senquez Golson. You feel for the guy. I think he has some talent, but 7 practices in 3 years. He finished 5 of them. Got through, I think, maybe a combined total of 1 padded practice. It just, you gotta move on. Trying to think the other names that really caught my eye. Guys that got cut. Kobe Hamilton. Well, he had some value last year. Just the room's too crowded. Doesn't separate. David Johnson was kind of disappointing to me. Francis Callan thought he had a little bit of upside, but Hooks was the better player right now. So that's totally fine. Mahalik. They probably wanted to re-sign Mahalik. That's probably one reason why Kyle Friend ended up on the practice squad. But he got claimed by the Lions. Mahalik did. He was with Detroit last year for a month or so. Then the Steelers brought him back, so kind of thinned out the O-line depth even more. Roy Philon I liked. He didn't get re-signed to the practice squad. Kind of on a personal level bummed out about that. I've always been a Roy Philon fan. Thought he had a nice camp. And Trey Williams, who we had the conversation after the was it the Colts game, right? I can't even remember at this point. Whatever, second or third game. Falcons game. It was. Falcons game for sure. Well, he had the long punt return. And, could he make the 53? Is there a spot? We had to pump the brakes pretty quick on that because while there was some nice play, credit to him, you got to be more than just a one-play guy. You got to be more than just the punt return. Stephon Logan did this consistently in 2009. He did it on kicks. He did it on punts. That's what gets you the spot, not just one play. And just as a punt returner, you got to really be able to do both and heighten your value. And Williams didn't get the chance to do kicks. They like bigger guys, in that spot. And he didn't do anything else with his punts. He had the fumble against Carolina, which kind of really ended any conversation, which was a brief conversation anyway. So anyway, sorry for rambling. Hopefully you guys thought this was informative. I know my energy level is kind of at negative 9,000 right now, but it's late. I wanted to get this video out for the morning to give you guys something to listen to. I'm going to get your feedback on the 53-man roster. The good, the bad, the ugly. Who did you want to see kept that was cut? Who was kept that you wanted to see get cut? Just your overall feel and, what other roster moves are going to happen. There still could be several roster moves that are going to happen. There have to be. There were 55 guys right now. There's got to be a corresponding move for the Wilcox trade. Someone's got to get cut. And there's got to be once Bell officially signed, there's got to be a corresponding move made there, and Bell will sign tomorrow once they get back to practice. That's why he didn't sign over the weekend. Kind of a shrewd, and I like the move from Colbert and company. And again, the practice squad could be very fluid as well. As Colbert's talked about, he doesn't like the no cut-down rule. You can't work these guys out. So after this first week, workouts will probably happen this Tuesday. That's the general day for workouts to happen in the NFL. And you can see a slew of changes after this. I tweeted on Sunday that in 2015, after that first week, they changed up 4 practice squad spots. 4 guys they originally kept, they dumped, and they brought in other guys. And they actually brought in some good guys. Grimble, Matt Filer, Toussaint were part of that. So was Isaiah Burst, but he didn't work out. But 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Guys that are still here and have made an impact on the team. So, you're probably going to see, I'm guessing, similar story to 2015 of maybe 4 different changes in the practice squad. O-line could be an area, D-line could be an area, wide receiver could be an area, where they bring in guys that now are cut and they can work out and get a good look at and do some shuffling. So things aren't totally set in stone yet. Don't assume this is going to be stagnant for the next week. I can almost guarantee that it won't be. But let me know your guys' thoughts and anything else you have, any other input you have about the 53 man roster. I want to get your take on it, and excited to listen to Dave and Dave on the podcast later this afternoon about this roster and just the craziness that's happened these last couple of days. You guys have been awesome. The site numbers are spectacular. The comments have been great. You guys have been just jamming the comment section. I love it. You guys are kind of the lifeblood to the site. So thank you guys for sticking around. A busy week. It's going to be more craziness, and we're less than a week away from actual football. Cleveland Week 1, September 10th. So that's going to be a ton of fun as well. We're going to dive heavy into Cleveland here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.